Kirby Smart is not only king of the SEC, hopefully by Saturday, he's the king of the recruiting trail. We talk about all them monsters we got in this signing class. Next, Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He, of course, is Clint. I'm Daniel. Today's episode brought to you by Better Together. Download the Better Together app from the App Store today. More on them in a moment. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for listening all the way through to the third segment. We appreciate all of you. And we're here late on a Wednesday. Maybe you're catching this on Thursday. Maybe you're catching us late Wednesday night. We're here on a Wednesday nonetheless. Let the record show it is Wednesday. And we apologize to no one. You've got to be able to multitask.
Have to.
If you are going to be a fan of an elite program. Now, if you're Auburn, Clint,
Sure.
Let me just spitball here. Okay. If you're Auburn, you are not thinking about anything but signing day right now.
That's
understand? If you're Alabama, you're not thinking about anything but signing day right now because the meaningful football games have ended. And when Clemson beats SMU on Saturday evening, all the meaningful football games will have ended for you. So if you're a Georgia fan, though, you got to get used to this because signing day is today on Wednesday. That's why we're coming to you a little bit late today. And the SEC Championship game is still on Saturday. So we're going to get back to our SEC Championship coverage beginning tomorrow. But today, wanted to take a break and talk about this signing class. Stop me if you've heard this before, Clint. Kirby Smart reeled in another whopper of a class.
This man just gets out on that boat and he just heads for the deepest and openest of seas. And he says, I'm gonna find some big uns out here.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're going to talk about the class. We're going to talk about who we like, what stands out, players that we want to focus on. I do want to start here though, from a big picture standpoint. Depending on the recruiting service that you look at, the top four teams are Texas, Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon. Some of them have Georgia and Oregon 3-4, and some of them have Oregon and Georgia 3-4. Depending on what services you look at, those are the top four. But sort of as a consensus across the country, Georgia finishes no higher than 3.
Right.
And what's maybe I don't want to use the word concerning, Clint, but maybe something to note is third in the SEC. 2 SEC teams ahead of Georgia, Alabama, and Texas, both ahead of Georgia in these signing classes. Now, it's one class. Kirby's got great players. We're going to talk in the second and third segments. It's more about the fit and the way that these guys slot in and the needs that they are meeting than it is just about overall talent. But you and I both know that it was those back-to-back number one classes that fueled the championship runs and the stockpile of overall talent. And so I ask you off the jump, before we get into all the exciting players, of which there are many. And I'm going to go as far as to say the most exciting player that has signed at Georgia since Kirby Smart has taken over.
Yep.
For me, is in this class. So stay tuned for that in segment 2. But before we get to any of that, is there a reason for concern with what you see Steve Sarkisian and Kalen DeBoer doing on the recruiting trail ahead of Kirby Smart, even a guy like Dan Lanning? I think it's safe to say that NIL has leveled the playing field in terms of recruiting, and Kirby is no longer in that category all to himself anymore as a recruiter, I would say.
I would counter that. I think, to answer your question, yes, the NIL has brought parity in recruiting services. You can be a great recruiter and be out-recruited by somebody who sucks at recruiting just because they drop a bag, okay? Yeah. So that is true. That's the level playing field. But I think I'm gonna try to counter with Kirby knew that, which is why we said he's the best poised to do this. Because if Kalen, if Dan, I'm not even going to talk smack about Dan. If Sark does what they do, they drop a bag, they get some money, they do that thing. Inevitably, what we see people leaving Georgia who can't get the starting lineup. That's what we see leaving Georgia. Okay.
Yeah.
We see people leaving other programs because they're not getting developed. They're starting and they leave. That's who's leaving these other programs, right? Caleb Downs comes to mind, y'all. Like,
sure.
Just up, okay? Malachi Starks did not transfer. All right,
sure.
So if I look at what Kirby's doing, Kirby took in this class, which, by the way, we have more 5 stars than the other schools that you mentioned in those recruiting services.
Yeah.
Kirby took a bunch of dudes like JJ, who's from Germany, a la Santa Fe, California, complete developmental. Dennis, Bo Walker, even Mason Short, these guys who are lesser known. I think Kirby went way top upper crust with a couple of these gets. And he stayed the course because there were a couple guys that didn't sign until real late in the day because they were fielding calls from other schools, dropping bags. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
A notable
Some of them at time of this recording still haven't signed on the dotted line. Still waiting.
Okay. So, but one notable wide receiver did after fielding some calls. So I think what Kirby did in this is he got the upper crust talent and then he went developmental on guys that he can make into those defensive studs. He can make into those running back studs. That's what I see happening here, where I see the other services saying, we're going to go 5s and 4s. We're going to do the top 100. We're going to drop bags, do the 20 million. It's Ohio State. It's Ryan Day. And that doesn't translate. So yes, you're correct. Kirby's pivoted, and I think in a good way.
And I think what you're going to see, Clint, to your point, because you're absolutely spot on with that. I think what you're going to see is recruiting services are going to catch up to evaluating the way that we're so used to just looking at these classes and just going 1, 2, 3, top ranked, the overall composite scores like 304.794 or whatever it is. Then we're so used to looking at these classes and just grading them out like that. You cannot just look at incoming freshmen and say that's the metric for what the talent is on the I'm sorry, are you kidding? You got to look at incoming transfers. You've got to look at outgoing transfers. You've got to look at like fit and culture and development. And so I think you're going to see recruiting services begin to catch up in the way that they grade out these things. Not that I'm saying if they graded out the right way, Kirby would be number 1 head and shoulders above. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I am trying to say that, to your point, not all number 1 classes are created equal. And you got to, talk to me 3-4 years down the road. And are those guys still playing at your university? Are they contributing to your teams? Because it's not like Texas and Alabama are just bag droppers. Like, these are legitimate college football programs coached by good coaches who have great tradition, who have a lot of money to spend, who are putting out winning teams on the field. I mean, 8-4 is, or 9-3 is like, I guess it's sort of winning. I guess if that's what you're into, then that's great. But it's not like these are, just like Texas A&M a few years ago, right? When they're just literally handing out money and there's no other reason for a kid to sign at their school. Georgia's going to be up at, against Texas. Now they're in the SEC, Georgia's going to be up against Texas every year in this thing. And for as long as Kalen DeBoer can keep it going and keep Alabama relevant, they're going to be in the mix. You're going to see Oregon and Dan Lanning in the mix. But I do think that the way you measure these classes has to be a more cumulative, big picture sense, because you've got to take into account who's staying, who's going, who's contributing, who's not. And that's where I think you do see Kirby excel. So we're going to talk about who we think is going to contribute from this class. Some people I'm dang sure are going to contribute, Clint, from this class right after these.
But these are better together. I don't know if you understand how better together works, but let me just explain it to you. It's very, very simple. It's the best.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Like you're 5.
Okay.
But okay, now explain it to me like I'm 4.
Yeah.
Do you hate the team that you drafted to begin the season long fantasy, but want to stay in the action? That's where Better Together comes together. The first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats. Strategize with your partner to boost your odds. Climb to the leaderboard together. So grab a friend. Join the social daily fantasy movement. Better Together. What happens better together? Again, is daily fantasy made simple. It's easy. It's not complex. You do more or less. You try to get cumulative stats, and it puts together a chat to the test to figure out who in the group chat can actually go ahead and perform, and can we cooperate to make our daily Better Together fantasy draft team all that. We got to prove that we're the best. If you want to get on the action, download Better Together now from the App Store. Sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to play in a contest with or against us, because winning alone is fun, but it is better together.
Clint, let's talk about some soon to be Georgia Bulldogs. They'll be on campus here, I mean, within a week, most of them. Like, I mean, any moment now, they're going to be walking into bowl practice. Yeah. So, and with this college football playoff, Clint, if Georgia continues to advance, you understand the reps that these guys are going to get in practice? Is that advantageous?
Kirby doesn't like reps in practice, though, does he? Is that
well, he does not count them as highly. He does not weight them as highly as he does game reps. Those are much more important than practice. Sure. Because typically the game is much harder than practice if you're Georgia. Oh, wait. No. Let's talk about I'm gonna give you the opportunity to tell me the player that you're most excited about, but not before I go first, in case you steal him. Because mine is Talon Taylor, the wide receiver prospect out of Geneva, Illinois, and just everybody take a deep breath together while I say the words. Georgia signed a 5-star wide receiver in this class. He put pen to paper. He was the first one to get his name in the door. Could not wait to become an official Georgia Bulldog. This guy's the real deal. He has screamed up recruiting rankings. Yes. And when you watch him play, you know exactly why. He has got elite ball skills, elite route running capability, elite speed, quickness, verticality. He does it all from a wide receiver standpoint. And Clint, this is why I say not all signing classes are created equal. Not all 5-stars are created equal, because sometimes you play the position that Georgia most desperately needs an infusion of talent in. No offense to any of these young wide receivers. I said the young wide receivers.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. No offense to any of these young wide receivers who may still feature prominently in Georgia's offense in years to come. I'm looking at Anthony Evans. I'm looking at Nitro Tuggle. I'm looking at guys who may still yet feature prominently in Georgia's offense. But my God, Clint, did we ever need a replacement for some of the dudes that we are trotting out there? And I'm not going to name his name, not because I don't want to embarrass him, but because I don't want to get sick to my stomach. Talon Taylor is a huge get for the University of Georgia. Huge for Gunnar Stockton or Jaden Rashada, whoever the Georgia quarterback is next year. Huge for Mike Bobo and this offensive staff. Cannot be oversold what this guy is going to mean. It is a George Pickens type player.
There it is.
And you saw what George Pickens did for your University of Georgia. He took you to your first national championship in 40 years.
Yeah, 100%. This kid is not, we talk about, okay, where can a speedster go? Where can a Colby Young go? Where can a London Humphreys fit in? Where does Don Lovett fit in? That's how we talk about.
Yep.
Let me tell you what Talon does about this offense. Okay. he just is there. Like you
he
put him on the field. He fits. Well, you need a burner? Sure. Tough contested? Sure. Like he is Dylan Bell-esque. If you watch him go over the middle, you watch him in the toughness game, he has that. He is George Pickens-esque, where he's going to take the top off of something. He's got speed. And the most important thing, as you watch his tape, Daniel, I swear this is not hard, and I swear I'm not. His catching ability.
Oh, is that part of being a receiver?
He's not a track star, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Receive the ball.
This kid is going to hit, and talk about a kid who can play early. Like
it's like asking, where does Asa Newell fit on our basketball team? Where does Anthony Edwards fit on our basketball? Do we have room for them? Like no. You have room because wherever they are, that's where they fit. That's who this kid is. Who's the next name on your list?
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Okay. Now I'm not going to take the easy, just cherry picking, because Isaiah Gibson and Elijah Griffin are dudes upon dudes upon dudes, like alphas to the alpha predators. Okay, so they're going to be just fine. And by the way, you want to look at defensive line? Oh my gosh! Like I didn't even tell you about Chase Linton, and he,
but you
might be by the end of this. He might be the best of this group. Like I'm not trying to troll the rest of them. He might be it. But Daniel,
go ahead.
I am who I am. I cannot change anything other.
We've been on this man since day one. We've been on him
Walker,
since day one.
You get on in here and you be freaking Patrick Willis for this team, because that's exactly who I see in you. It is freakish what this guy looks like. 6'2", 225, and it ain't the same. Some number one classes are different than other number one classes. This 225 ain't the same as other 225s. He built. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This guy is disruptive. He's an eraser. He's all over the field, and he likes to bring the pain. It's absolutely incredible. His whole entire family comes from an athletic background, but I look at this kid and it screams to me difference maker on the defensive line of a stacked linebacker group day one. He looks at linebacker or running back. Give me the measurables, give me the looks. All that's great, but just turn on the tape. And when you have twitchiness better than other people, it's easy to spot. This man has twitchiness that is different than everybody else on the field when you turn on tape.
Yeah, this has all the makings of he comes onto campus. He learns the system. He absolutely eats some fools up on special teams next year, all year. And then CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson go off to the NFL.
Great.
And it is Justin Williams and Chris Cole. And this guy just raises his hand and says, you remember when Georgia used to have 3-star middle linebackers on the field? I'll be the Channing Tindall of the group, guys. If you needed a chance, I'll be that guy. Because I know that I'm the next class, but like it's my turn right now.
But also
that's who this guy is. Like I'm not you mentioned some guys that like might be like, oh, don't sleep on, these guys might be the best defensive linemen of the group. I'm going to do that with a linebacker, Clint. What do you know about this AJ Crua guy from Marietta, Georgia, Marietta High School, right down the road from where I grew up? Big time football program. And this dude flipped from UNC.
Yep.
This I dare you to look at him and watch the tape and not remember that in that class there was a 5-star named Raylan Wilson and there was a 4-star named CJ Allen.
Oh no.
And so AJ Crua comes in and says, what if I just was CJ Allen?
I can play.
I could go too, like that where I come from, they also have footballs. Yeah. And like I played it as well. We're going to talk about a couple more names that I think are going to be huge for Georgia from this signing class. But first, I want to let you know about these.
And these are, in fact, FanDuel, FanDuel.com, the official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcast. Every day, and I use them all the time. We come up with locks this week.
We use them tomorrow.
We use them because this just in, they are plenty of feasting locks this
Oh, we
week.
gonna have a lock in every championship game, Clint? Is that a
almost
commitment to the people?
you.
Is
I
that a
almost
commitment to the
guarantee you
people?
we
Yeah,
will, because
all right.
we're going to feed families this week. Y'all.
Yes,
Feeding
sir.
families this week.
Mhm.
Do that at FanDuel.com. You make a $5 wager. You win that $5 wager. You get $150 in bonus bets straight to your account. $5 win, $150 straight to your account. Safe, effective, the official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcast. Everywhere Daniel and I use them. They're your own trusted source. Get over there right now. FanDuel.com. Make every moment more.
Clint,
Yes,
you
sir.
talked about some defenders. I don't think Elijah Griffin and Isaiah Gibson should just be passed over.
No, let's get to them.
Well, what's the one word we've used to describe this UGA defensive front more than any other word all year?
Charmin soft.
They are just soft as the softest thing that's ever been
It's like
soft.
a salamander's underbelly.
That is correct. I wouldn't know but like that seems right. It seems like you have personal experience, and I'm not going to ask any follow-up questions about it. When I say about Taylor, the 5-star wide receiver, coming in at the neediest position of needs imaginable.
Yes.
These defensive line prospects are right on their heels, because you do not have to be a rocket scientist. Okay. Georgia. Okay. Let me back up.
Please do.
Georgia might win the national championship this year. They might win the SEC on Saturday, and they might win the national championship this year. Okay.
Great.
But they will do so. We all know this, and it's okay. They will do that because everyone sucks in college football this year. Everyone sucks. Georgia is not the championship caliber team that we have seen over the last several years. And the difference is not hard to decipher. No. It is big, physical monsters on the defensive front. And I present to you, Clint, Elijah Griffin, who is an absolute monster. I'm not going to evoke the name of Jalen Carter because that is disrespectful to everyone.
Correct.
But the man is 6'4", 3 bills, coming in out of Savannah Christian, and he is ready to go today. You understand what I'm saying? He will be a day one contributor on that defensive front for the University of Georgia. He is an absolute monster, and it is a massive need for this Georgia football team. I'll go one more because I really think Elias Williams, the tight end, might be the most important player in the class. I mentioned
this is certainly
Taylor.
Yes, this is certainly, you said most important on the offensive explosive side. That's don't look at tight end box. Think offensive explosiveness.
He's a pass catching weapon, and Georgia signed 2 5-star pass catchers in this class. He's also 6'7" and could move a wall of granite from in front of him without breaking a sweat. You want to talk about an inline blocker? You want to talk about a guy who's got athleticism? This guy is like Darnell Washington with better hands, Clint. I don't know how else to describe him.
Well said.
Like Darnell Washington, by the way, the starting tight end in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a playoff team, a team that's like second in the AFC. Starting tight end Darnell Washington in the NFL. This guy comes in same body, which, by the way, do I have to remind people, Clint? They don't make those those are not the kind of bodies that you. No. That's like an Amarius Mims type physique that you don't see. You don't get them. He comes in with that same body, but the athleticism, the route running, the hands, he's got it all. Elias Williams will be an immediate contributor to this Georgia offense. Mike Bobo and Gunnar Stockton or Jaden Rashada or whoever wins that starting quarterback job. They've got a nice little handful of weapons to begin building this offensive system around. I know there's a lot of talk about Georgia going out and getting portal wide receivers.
Sure.
And believe me, I want them. I want all of them.
Yeah.
But we got some guys here that are going to come in right away, and they're not going to have any problem picking up some slack in the passing game.
Now, talking about offensive explosiveness being a huge need, and 6'7", 240, and runs gracefully. You can't teach that.
Like a gazelle.
You can't really teach that. That is size speed combo that Kirby covets. I'm going to go to the similar vein on the offensive side.
Okay.
And we've seen horseshoe-esque protection from this offensive line all year long. Carson Beck gets back in the pocket, and it is not because he's feeling pressure at his feet that in which he kind of speeds up his game mentally. It's something else that's happening inside of his head.
Yeah. He's been pressured 2 times since the Ole Miss game, by the way. So and we played Tennessee, who supposedly has the number 1 defensive front in the SEC.
Best front 7 in the SEC. Played them. Okay. Juan Gaston is 6'7", 350. And he excels in one area of the game.
That's too many numbers, Clint. I'm being totally honest with you. That's too many numbers. You've exceeded your allotment. You have exceeded your allotment of numbers.
I'm sorry. It goes to 0 after that. It's like the 2000 computer crash. We don't know what happens when we don't know what happens next and go somewhere else. So let's figure that out. But Juan Gaston is 6'7", 345, and absolutely knows one thing and one thing well. And that is mauling people, Daniel.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
He is
mauling people. Yeah.
Sorry. It's illegal. It's legal.
I
what he does.
said murder, but that was incorrect.
It is just joyless murder ball for him on the football field.
Correct.
He is nasty as nasty can get. Think Ben Cleveland. Okay. 5-star. Ben did an admirable job on the offensive line. Came in, needed some work to go ahead and get that pass pro set on it. And he had to have that. And that he learned that well. Juan Gaston's going to be able to get up in a set, pop them hands, and have to do so. But I think he actually probably slots in. He's right now a tackle. I think he slots into guard is what I really think he's going to become. And if you tell me he got a road grading offensive guard at 6'7", 350 with a nasty streak in him, because that's what we're missing right now. Monroe Freeling had a little bit of that last game against Georgia Tech. Yeah. I need more of it. And Juan Gaston is the dude. Don't believe people when they say we didn't get better on the offensive line this draft. Lord God. Don't believe them. And you're paying to read their content just so you're fully aware. You are paying for them to tell you we didn't get better on offensive line when I am here to inform you.
I will lie to you for free. If you want, you don't have to pay somebody to lie to you guys. I don't know. Let me just say this from a big picture perspective. You and I and everyone who with eyeballs recognizes that Georgia has a problem at wide receiver, at pass catcher, on the offensive side of the ball. Yep. The offense has been stagnant at times. It's been, there's been so many issues with drops all year. Such a consistent theme with drops. And Kirby, much to the chagrin of the Georgia fan base, has refrained from being a douchebag and throwing his players under the bus, which apparently everybody wants him to do. Correct.
A lot. Yeah.
He ain't going to be Hugh Freeze, y'all. For so many reasons, he's not going to be Hugh Freeze.
He owns one cell phone.
That's right. And Mary Beth has access to it. So he's not trying to be Hugh Freeze. All right? All right. But don't act like Kirby doesn't see what's going on. And I'll tell you how I know he sees what's going on, Clint. 5 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. That's what Georgia signed in this class. I'm sorry, I'll say it again. 5 wide receivers
we didn't mention CJ Wiley.
And 2 tight ends in this class. Georgia's about to get a lot of help at pass catcher. Listen, you're going to need to buy a program week 1 next year because there's going to be a lot of dudes out there running patterns, catching balls that you ain't ever seen play for Georgia before because they're brand new. You're going to see it on the football field next year for Georgia. All right, We're coming back tomorrow to talk about what you're going to see on the football field for Georgia this Saturday. We're giving you an official prediction for the Georgia-Texas game. And I'll just be honest with you, both of us hate our prediction. We're not excited about it. So tune in tomorrow and find out what it is on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
See ya.